involved a one-man helicopter landing on the U.S. Capitol lawn. Mark Smith reports.
The man, Doug Hughes, has been conducting an online campaign against what he says is campaign finance corruption. On his website, he proclaimed his hope of delivering letters to members of Congress to draw attention to it. He says he informed the authorities and had no violent intent.
A Cuban-born anti-Castro activist says he does not think that either Cuban American running for the GOP presidential nomination will have much of an impact on the overwhelming support Hispanics give to Democratic presidential candidates. AFN's Chad Gerning reports.
For the first time in history, 2 Cuban Americans have officially filed to run for president as Republicans. Texas Senator Ted Cruz filed first, and then this week Florida Senator Marco Rubio made his announcement. Humberto Fontova fled Cuba in 1961 and has written several books on the Castro regime. He says no one should be surprised that these 2 men are Republicans.
The Cuban-American community has always been the politically incorrect minority. Liberals can bash us with impunity. We are the most consistently and overwhelmingly Republican voters in the modern history of the United States.
But Fontova doubts that either Cruz or Rubio will be able to attract many non-Cuban Hispanic votes.
Cuban Americans are not very popular with other Hispanics in the United States. This is something that is kept hush-hush in many circles, but it is a fact. All Cuban Americans know this. I don't think the outreach is going to be to Mexican Americans and Puerto Rican Americans, because I don't think they're going to vote for a Cuban American overwhelmingly, or even as a majority.
Still, Fontova is proud that 2 Cuban Americans are pursuing the dream of becoming president of the United States. I'm Chad Groening.
Former New England Patriots player Aaron Hernandez has been convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison in Massachusetts.
District Attorney Thomas Quinn says name recognition did not help the defense.
Aaron Hernandez may have been a well-known New England Patriots football player. However, in the end, the jury found that he was just a man who committed a brutal murder.
Odin Lloyd's mother, Ursula Ward, said she forgives the hands of the people that had a hand in her son's murder, either before or after.
And I pray and hope that someday everyone out there will forgive them also.
Members of the jury said they were shocked that the defense admitted Hernandez was at the scene when Odin Lloyd was killed. I'm Ed Donahue.
There is concern about President Lincoln's Illinois tomb. Sandy Kozel explains.
The caretakers of Abraham Lincoln's tomb are on the defensive over an unflattering critique in National Geographic magazine and looming state budget cuts that could threaten management and maintenance of the Civil War president's final resting place. A ceremony in Springfield to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the 16th president's death comes at a time when Illinois' governor has proposed eliminating the state's historic preservation agency, which manages sites including the tomb. I'm Sandy Kozel.
And a Houston hospital says a woman has delivered 5 girls in what it believes is the first set of all-female quintuplets born in the U.S. The Women's Hospital of Texas says Danielle Busby had her babies by C-section April 8th. Doctors say the children, born premature at 28 weeks, were doing well on Wednesday. The family already has 1 daughter. For more news and information, visit onenewsnow.com.
100 days, 100 subscribers at $7 will bring FirstAmendmentRadio.com to the minimum level necessary to sustain it through 2015. Go to support.FirstAmendmentRadio.com. $7 a month. Really, you can afford that for our Protestant First Amendment rights and the gospel of the kingdom message. Where your heart is, there will your treasure be also. Go to support.FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this April 15th, 2015 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony, and you're listening to the Investigative Journal on FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can listen to my show every Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on First Amendment Radio. You can also catch reruns on Liberty Radio and on ArcticBeacon.com, as well as several AM stations in the South, and selected shows that I put on shortwave radio. Now, oh boy, where are we going to begin? Let's begin where we left off yesterday. Because over the centuries, since recorded time, as smart as man is believed in some of the craziest things. And why do people believe in these things? Well, back in the old days, I think people were a lot smarter because they believed things they could see. They also had great imaginations and occasionally had some crazy ideas. But I think modern man takes the cake. I think we believe in more crazy things than anybody ever believed in the past, even people that couldn't read, didn't have TV, and were considered by us to be basically backwards. Yeah, but I really do believe that modern man takes the cake on what he really believes. Now, for example, let me give you an example. I got to let he doesn't want to come in. I thought he wanted to come in. Modern man, for example, there was a TV show on in the 60s. It was called Mr. Ed. Now, Mr. Ed was a talking horse. The other day, I watched a TV commercial where they brought on a talking horse to sell a product. Now, the reason that people believe in a lot of things is what they see on TV, hear on TV, i.e., I'll give you some examples. Now, I'm not saying that people believe horses talk, but I bet you some people really do. Now, how did I go about as a young man, because I listened to that show Mr. Ed when I was a young boy. Now, why didn't I believe that that horse talked? Well, because I grew up on a farm and I was around horses. And there's not one horse that ever talked to me. Now, I used to play with the horses, ride the horses, and talk to them, and pretend they were talking to me. And remember having this imagination that one of my horses was Mr. Ed, exactly that. So many people realize that they have met a lot of horses in their day that don't talk, and that the creators of this TV show, or the creators of this television commercial that's on TV now, just made it up to sell a product or to entertain you. Now, let me take this one step farther. How many of you out there believe that we went to the moon? I would bet, knowing Americans and how stupid most of them are, because they watch so much TV, that I would bet that a majority of Americans still believe we went to the moon. Now, I also believe that if I say we didn't go to the moon, most Americans would think that I was off my rocker. Now, what's the evidence that you have that we went to the moon? Well, I talked to some people. Some people told me they heard it on the radio, because this happened in the 60s. Not every, on TV back then wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. I believe it was still black and white. There were only a few channels, and a lot of people still didn't even have a TV. So they played it on the, many people believed that we went to the moon because they heard it on the radio. Other people believed it because they put a few pictures up on the TV, right? I've even forgotten exactly what year they said we went, but it was around that time. And so then people believed it because they heard it, they saw it on TV. Then people believed it, of course, because their president told them that. They believed believed it because the news media told them that, and they believed it because NASA and the astronauts told you. Now, did anybody ever really have solid evidence that we went? No, we just believe what we see on TV, what we hear from our authorities, and that's the end of it. But as a thinking human being, and there are very few in this country, by the way, I happened to do a lot of research, and I was a little skeptical when I first started. I said, we had to go to the moon. How could they pull off such a conspiracy? That's insane. No one could do that. Well, when you really look into it, it's not really that hard. And instead of getting into all of the possibilities, why weren't there leaks? How did they do this? Oh, it can be done. And all you need is a small group of people building on a bigger conspiracy. And so, all I'm getting at is the evidence that you have that we went to the moon is basically based on what you've seen on TV, heard on the radio, or what your authorities have told you. Now, there's one thing that I do in my life. I don't believe anything the government tells me. And after researching the moon landing, and there are, a number of people out there who are a bit, skeptical themselves. They came up with some solid evidence that we didn't go, and we couldn't go. And so, you're left with this. Who are you going to believe? And I say most Americans will believe TV. So let's leave the moon landing, because I'm going to give you another example of what we believe these days. And I don't want to leave out the spiritual world. And I don't want to leave out the biggest religion in the world. Catholicism is claimed to be one of the biggest, or the biggest one in the world. And they believe in, card-carrying Catholics believe in several things that really stump me. They believe in, one, that the Pope is God on earth, or Christ on earth. Two, they believe Mother Mary comes down and talks to them and has shown her face. And the Vatican has approved 9 of these Mother Mary sightings. And by the way, they make a lot of money off of that. And 3, they believe in weeping statues. Yes. And the Vatican has approved that as well. Oh, there are a lot of hoaxes involved. But they believe in it. And they've told you that statues can weep. Now, those 3 examples are very interesting. Why do you believe the Pope is God on earth? You Catholics out there? Or others, Protestants, who basically are saying the same thing because they're in lockstep in the ecumenical movement with Catholics. Why do you believe that? Because they tell you that. Right. That's the bottom line. There's no proof. What proof is there? None. You believe exactly what the Vatican tells you. And if you want to look at a lot of their quotes going back to the 13th century, you're going to see that's what they've claimed the divinity for a long time. However, it hasn't officially been sanctioned until the 1800s, when some maniac pope decided that he was going to push this through. And that's the bottom line of Catholicism today, this crazy idea that the Pope is a vicar of Christ. But people believe it. Now let's go one step farther. If you believe that, and if you believe that Mother Mary came down on this earth, what did the Vatican say about that? Well, there's 9 major approved Mother Mary apparitions. Now, they started apparitions of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico. And Mary supposedly appeared 4 times to Juan Diego in 1532 at a hill near Mexico City. She, at that time, told Juan that she was the spiritual mother of all of us and left her miraculous image on Juan Diego's outer garment. Now, to this day, there are many Mexicans who have a great devotion to Our Lady of Guadalupe. Now, where is the proof? Well, they didn't have TV back then. I'm sure that would have helped. Because do you know Do you know that when it comes to weeping statues, the biggest one in the world is Our Lady of Akita? And she has nothing to do with the breed of dog. And, I'm really saddened by that breed getting a bad name. All right, if I was an Akita, I would throw a fit and say, I don't want my name being used with you human beings and your crazy ideas. And, I always said a long time ago, man has designated dog as his best friend, but without any dog ever having a say in it. Because I am sure if any dog did, they would say no. Not your best friends. Look at the way you treat us. And in general, okay, there's some good dog owners. But in general, a stray dog has a very short lifespan anywhere around the world. And if you're in certain parts of the world, you better run for the hills because they'll eat you. So how can we call the dog our best friend? Well, we do because they don't have any say in it. But there are people in the world that believe that statues actually shed tears or blood or oil or something like that. Now, I've had a lot of statues in my house over the years. I've lived in Rome for 7 years, and I saw so many statues. Now, the only ones that were actually weeping or something was, they had these statues in Rome where they would put, water coming out of the guy's mouth, stuff like that, to make a fountain in other exceedingly interesting places. You get my drift? But that's about the only time I ever saw that, and that's man-made, of course. But people believe that statues do weep, and that's a sign. And it's always the Vatican involved in this, because they're supposedly the authority of this. They're the authority of who's God. They're the authority of when Mother Mary comes down here. And they're the authority on weeping statues. And people actually believe this. Now, the biggest one that they really hold their head on, they say this is true, it's Our Lady of Akita apparitions, was that, and they said this, that unlike any other case, the entire nation of Japan was able to view the tears of the statue of the Virgin Mary on national television. Then again, will you believe that a horse talks? Oh, I'm sure if the Vatican approved it, you would believe it. And I'm sure they could figure out a way to say, and if they can create statues bleeding or crying or whatever and saying it's a sign of God coming down to us. Let's forget about the idol worship part of this, how pagans used to worship statues and all that. And if they can tell you that Mother Mary has come down, and I'm going to show you where they said they authorized it 9 times. Oh, she supposedly has come down much more. I've never seen it. Now, I guess I could create it and tell you that she's sitting right in the tree at my house right now, talking to me. And she's telling me that, oh, you know what? She's telling me the world's flat. Oh, my God. Don't entertain that idea, Mother. You're going to not be considered the Mother of God if you start thinking like that. But anyway, if the Vatican approved it, of Mother Mary coming down on my tree, everyone would believe it. So if they would approve, for example, maybe they'll come up someday with God has decided to come down and talk through a horse. A white horse is revered. Charlton Heston rode one in Ben-Hur. And I bet if the Vatican said that Mr. Ed was a talking horse that really talks, and they'd probably say some things like, the world is coming to an end, and this is going to be the last pope. And if a horse said, they could get you to believe that. And there would be millions of people around the world that believe horses talk. And why? For the same reason that millions of people believe that this statue, Our Lady of Akita, the poor dogs, getting their name tarnished like this, believe that this statue bleeds. Because They said people heard it on national television. Now that opens up an idea. Don't you think if they can get people to believe that, they can get you to believe most anything if it's on TV, including the moon landing? Because most people listen. How do you know? You know, going on the theory that I don't believe a word NASA says, I don't believe a word the government says, I don't believe a word the Pope says, then I got to be a bit skeptical about these things, because look at what your leader of your country, a free, supposedly independent country, is going to allow the Pope to be here very shortly, and he's going to get treated like a king on earth here. Now, this Pope believes that statues bleed, that the Mother Mary appears in trees, and also that, well, you might as well he believes in the moon landing. That's crazy enough. And you want to put your trust in people that you go to the voting booth for that are going to kiss his ring? Yeah, that's what you do. And you like it. Because as Mark Twain said, and I'll repeat it again, it's easier to fool people than it is to show people that they have been fooled. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here. And that's a lot harder than what they do. Fooling you about these weeping statues, fooling you about the Virgin Mary. Now, wait a second. As a kid, I grew up believing that this was true. Now, I told you that the Vatican has approved 9 major approved apparitions. Now, needless to say, they make a hell of a lot of money over this because they've turned all of these into, like, I don't know if they still, people go to the Lady of Guadalupe or whatever. But they got some big money makers here. And they got, people go there every year, make pilgrimages, just like the Muslims make pilgrimages to Mecca. I mean, it's the same religion. They probably created that too. But the point is, what's the next one? Did you realize that the apparition of the Rue du Bac in Paris, France, has been approved by the Vatican? So that's got to be true. As long as they tell you that. Mary appeared to Catherine Lebois in the Chapel of Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent 3 times in 1830. She showed her design of the medal of the Immaculate Conception. The miraculous medal. The medal, when propagated, helped to renew devotion to Our Lady, both in France and eventually around the world. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a bit skeptical about all these things. Call it, just maybe, growing up and having a mind of my own, which they don't want you to have. How about the apparition of La Salette? That was popular. France was popular. Mary liked France during the 1840s. She apparently liked Mexico in the 1500s. She gets around. Oh, then she appeared in Lourdes. Man, she was busy in France. The apparition of Lourdes, France. She's always appearing to these little kids, age 14, age 11. That was in France, age 14. In Lourdes, age 14, she appeared to, at the Grotto of Massabielle. She asked for penance and prayer for the conversion of sinners. And, then, how about, another one. Well, there's 4 of the 9 are in France. The apparition of Pont-Maine, 1871. She was busy during the 1800s. Oh, then in 1879, she knocked on the door of Ireland. Oh, yes. Just as she knocked on the door closes. Mary's here. My door just mysteriously closed. Maybe she's here. Mary. Yo. Yep, there she is in the tree. I told you she'd come. Now, you're going to believe that? Yes, you are. There are going to be a lot of Catholics that are going to say, Greg saw Mother Mary on April 15th, 2015, right in his tree by his place, because he said so. He heard it on the radio. It's got to be true. Hey, you believe anything you hear on the TV stations, right? That's why they said the weeping statue in Japan was true. Boy, I'm glad I checked the time, because yesterday I went over a couple minutes. Got about 4 minutes. So we got all these apparitions. There goes that door. She's here. So we got France. Then she decides to go to Ireland. Again, she appears a small village in Mayo, Ireland, in August of 1879. A number of villagers of diverse ages saw a silent apparition, which lasted about 3 hours outside the gable end. These are all approved, so they got to be true, if the Vatican says they are. Then we get to the big one, where the three kids, Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinto, age 7, 10, and 9, all saw Mother Mary at Fatima. They make big money on this one. And this one, they started to get smart. This was 1917. There was Mary came down, and there was all of these ideas. She had 3 secrets, and then blah, blah, blah. But do you know, one thing that happens a lot of times in these recent ones, they kill these kids that see Mary end up dead. Now, Lucia survived. And research has shown that there's a possibility they killed the other 2. Because they didn't want them to talk when they get older. You know, it's easy to convince a kid anything. You know, like I told you, I grew up a Catholic, and at the age of 9 or 7 or 6, I believed in this stuff too. So I guess if I was walking to school, like I used to walk in the snow in Chicago, and they created some kind of apparition and told me I was special and was giving me all these special favors, and it looked to me like I saw Mother Mary, man, I might believe it. Now, I better become a Jesuit priest or something, or they're going to kill me, because they don't want me to become a thinking human being and tell, how, God, that couldn't have happened. So a lot of times they get rid of these kids. Now, Lucia survived, and she became a nun, and that story is interesting. You got to go check Sister Lucia and see what happened to her and all of the crazy stuff around that story. And I've been through that a million times. I could spend the whole show on it, but do it yourself. But since the Vatican says it's true, you got to believe it. You've heard it on TV. You've heard it on the radio. Heck, you just heard it from me. I just saw Mother Mary. Right now, she just closed my door and sitting up in the tree. And there's going to be a lot of maybe I could turn this place into a money-making proposition. Then I got to get the Vatican to approve this, though. Well, not necessarily. Because if you look at Medjugorje in Yugoslavia, that place is making a fortune, according to a couple people I had on my show who have been screwed over by them. And the Vatican yet hasn't approved it, but they haven't denounced it. But they're making a fortune over there. Millions of people are flocking to Medjugorje. So it really, it's interesting. Maybe I had to get them on the, call them up today. What do they do then? They have their priests come out and do, then they by the end of the story, they'll be doing an exorcism or something, and I ain't going to get involved with them. But just to give you an idea, if you're just looking for a business, that's a good one. Get involved with these guys, the Master of Magic. I call them the Masters of Magic, right over there in Rome. They can do it all. Well, just to end this portion of the show, we got through 4 or 5 of these apparitions. There's 8, 9 of them. And there was 2 in Belgium, 1 in Portugal, and that was Fatima, of course, and then Ireland, and then France, and then we got 9 approved, and then we got Medjugorje out there right now that they're on the fence over. All right. We'll be back. We're running out of time. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis. as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we're back on the Investigative Journal on this. What date is it? April 15th, 2015 day on our calendar, a Wednesday. And I'm your host, Greg Anthony. And like I said at the beginning of the show, you know, people over the centuries, over the course of humanity, have believed in a lot of crazy things. But modern man really takes the cake. We happen to be, we're thought to be the most technologically advanced society in the world. But you know what? We're worse than the ancients on the stuff we believe. We are the stupidest group of people ever that existed on this planet, and I believe we'll get stupider as we go on. And to hell with grammar, right? So, outside of getting it, let me take an aside here for a minute to show you how crazy we really are. Now, I mentioned Medjugorje, right? Now, what is Medjugorje? It's a place where the Mother Mary appears again to several children in Bosnia-Herzegovina back in, the 90s? 80s? Very recently. And the Vatican yet hasn't put its stamp of approval on it, but in the meantime, they're making millions of dollars over there. And I said that to you yesterday. Now, I met a guy named Phil Kronzer. He was a wealthy San Francisco businessman, estimated net worth in the millions and millions, manufacturing magnate, devout Catholic, used to go to all these apparitions with his wife. They'd take trips every year. Well, he found out that, they got into his wife's head of 39 years and basically polluted her with ideas that he was there's Mother Mary appearing again, locking my door. I told you she was here. You heard that door slam. I didn't do it. But anyway, I better put my my dog's out there. She may, did you see her? Come on in. Let's go. He says yes. No, you know what he really said. Come on, Max. Come on inside. Mary slamming the door frightened him. And he told me as he walked in, he said, "You believe, she ain't out there. What do you humans believe in? It's crazy." But anyway, so Kronzer finds out that basically they wanted to get into his pocket, the Jesuits who were running that place. It was Bishop Nillick at the time. He's passed away since. And I interviewed Kronzer many times on my radio show when he was in hiding. They were trying to shut this guy up badly because he had put in millions and millions of dollars. Because he was trying to show that they broke up his marriage because after a visit to Medjugorje because they wanted to pollute his wife, and basically she divorces him and then puts all the money gives all the money to the church, is what he was trying to show. And Kranzer used substantial personal assets, estimated at $12 million, to finance his own foundation. A documentary, magazine ads, a website, Kranzer.org, and a conservative talk radio program in Denver, lashing out at the Medjugorje movement. Mostly, though, he basically was trying to use the legal avenue to do this, and he was spending a lot of money. And he was serious about getting to the bottom, and he came on my show and said basically he'd found everything he found out. I mean, where the money was going to off the Cayman Islands, it wasn't being used for the poor, how this was so speculative as far as what happened to the kid. This is ridiculous. He was saying all of the Mother Mary apparitions are a fake, if this one is. And he was a devout Catholic who believed in all this stuff. But, these greedy priests and this greedy organization, had to shut him up. So listen to what he does. Now, this relates to a story that I've been doing about the Tony Alamo ministry. Now, the Vatican has tried to close down a Christian ministry, and they're trying right now, calling it a cult and whatever. But listen to this story, what he uncovered. And I'm going to ask you people out there, why don't they shut down this little cult that Kranzer found out about, which is crazy. Much crazier than the Alamo ministry. And the reason I'm saying that is because the people that the Vatican, who was instrumental in putting Tony Alamo in jail for 175 years, for anti-Vatican criticism, talking about the beast in the Bible, basically saying, listen, look at how they're bilking your country. Look at how they're involved. He was, one of the few people in this country that was telling you what this organization is about, and they had to shut him up. And we've gone over that story many times. But listen to what Kranzer found out. And then you ask me why they don't touch these people. Because they're involved with the Vatican. And look at what they're doing. Now listen to this. So, over the last 10 years, Kranzer sued a Kansas-based nonprofit called the Medjugorje MIR Center, the Indiana group Children of Medjugorje, which produces films and books on the subject, 2 other nonprofits in a Medjugorje ministry in rural Alabama. He has also financed a lawsuit by 5 former members of the Alabama group and sued the law firm representing it and at least 4 of his own associates, claiming they turned on him in his quest to discredit the Medjugorje phenomena. You don't go against the Vatican. Ask Tony Alamo. He is also fighting several countersuits. The barrage of litigation and related paperwork lies in stacks throughout his ranch home on a quiet tree-lined street in Los Gatos, just off Highway 17. And I think they've taken that away from him by now. Because I'm going back a few years. In his living room, a foot-tall wooden statue of the Virgin Mary stands in a lighted case overlooking a coffee table piled with legal documents and a family photograph from happier times. At 70, and this was years ago, Kranzer is thick-set and active, an avid golfer before his knee began giving him troubles recently, and he bears a striking resemblance to Donald Sutherland. And he said, this is pretty much I do all the time. No group has been the target of that war than a curious Alabama religious community known as Caritas. Now I ask you, it doesn't appear the authorities really are concerned about these people. Oh, they let them live in their little secluded now. On Shelby Road, Road 43, about 20 miles south of Birmingham in Sterrett, Alabama, population 3,000, lies a secluded commune on a woodsy 160-acre farm in the countryside. About 50 people, all Catholics, live there year-round, having dedicated their lives to promoting the holy messages that continue to come through the Medjugorje visionaries. Now, here's the deal. Here we have a group of people, they're allowed to live there year-round. Now, how come the Alamo people aren't allowed to live year-round and promote the Bible? But these people, they're not a cult. Oh, no. Because they promote the Medjugorje and the Mother Mary visions. They believe that statues weep, the Pope is the vicar of Christ, and that Mother Mary comes down and talks to, is probably more important than Jesus. Yes, but that's okay. And they're not a cult. Oh no, they can live secluded. All these people, they're not bothered by the authorities. They're not criticized in the media. And why? Because they are in lockstep with the Vatican, and the Tony Alamo Christian Ministry over there in Arkansas wasn't. And so, because of that, the media and the Pope and everybody will call them a cult, when in fact, this is a cult. What do they believe in? Listen to me, that is more of a cult than anything I've ever heard. But I thought in America, we were free to believe what we want. Now, I don't care if these people are sitting there believing in weeping statues and things like that. I'm not saying go in and raid their place, but I'm saying why will they raid a Christian ministry who believes in the Bible? That is a question that none of your authorities will ever answer, and they'll give you some bogus thing, and they'll tell you, and I'll tell you what they'll say. They'll talk about what the media says about Tony Alamo. In fact, they won't get into the fact that he's been framed. But you're going to believe them, you're going to believe the Pope, you're going to believe the TV, you're going to believe you might as well believe that Mr. Ed talks. The horse in that show, or the commercial on TV now, where this woman selling some product rides this horse on the beach and the horse talks. Believe that too. Because when you believe the Pope is the Vicar of Christ, when you believe that statues weep and the Mother Mary is more important than Jesus and comes down on earth, then you basically ought to believe that horses talk as well. And I'm telling you, if the Pope ever came out and said that horses talk, and one came down, this one talked, because he's representing, I don't know, Mary came down to venerate all of the animals and tell us that we've treated animals terribly and God is upset, you'd believe it. Now, when I did these stories on Philip Kronzer, who had really gone through, outside of, you want to talk about another guy the Vatican came down on, and our authorities, they came down on him, because when he started doing this and spending all, they had countersued him, they had, in fact, initiated lawsuits, basically even tried to frame him for sending anthrax to people to make him look like he was crazy. He had to leave America. He was in hiding when I talked to him years ago. I don't know where he is today. I'd like to find out. To call his attorney to see if he's still in touch with him. But in 1987, this all started when he started to realize what the hell was going on there. And it all because, they wanted to get into his money through his wife and create a havoc in his marriage. And this organization there that he was looking at in Alabama spends hundreds of thousands of dollars talking about the Medjugorje thing and dedicating their lives to promoting these holy messages. In that area, there's a stone tabernacle housing an office and printing press, a gift shop, a cluster of trailers where adherents live, and an open field where a statue of Virgin Mary rests on some rocks. Set back in the woods is a large two-story house where the community's charismatic founder, a former landscaper named Terry Colafrancisco, lives with his family. Hey, but that's okay, because the Vatican approves it. And they'll let anybody do what they want in the woods as long as they put a statue of the Virgin Mary there. Basically boils down to that. But if you talk about the Bible, if you talk about freedom, if you have a large ministry that gets to people and says, hey, look at this, the Vatican, basically, this is nothing of this is in the Bible, and we're a Christian country here in America. And how can we be a Christian country if this organization claims to be Christian, but they're actually using pagan traditions? It doesn't make sense. And when Tony Alamo and other ministers who do this try to tell people they're cast as crazy, they're cast as outlaws, And there are people that believe in that are cast as cults. So anybody out there right now who believes in the Bible, truly believes in the Bible, you are a cult, according to the Pope. Now, what's happening is most Protestants are falling in line with the Pope, and they are including him. Oh, well, let him have his little crazy beliefs. But the point is, you can't do that. Read the Bible, see what it says. So make a stance. You know, that's why I respect those people over at the Alamo Ministry, because they have a belief system, and it's seemingly founded on things that are wholesome and true. Not on, look, like I said before, make up your mind. If you want to be with the Pope, just say it. Like all these guys on TV. They tell you who they are, but then they lie. And it goes on and on and on. And all I'm getting at is, when I started this show today, I said, listen, how crazy it is. Believing in these statues. Now, how did I ever come to a conclusion? No, well, I used a little bit of common sense. But secondly, I found Mr. Kronzer, who really did find out where all the money's going to. And then you start researching all of these apparitions, and you realize that it's not true, and they're making it up, and you believe it because they tell you that. And there's more evidence on that side of the coin than there is on the side of the Vatican. Now, all I'm getting at is if you believe them, fine. Why don't you listen to this side of the story? Because you believe what you're told by your authorities. And that's the end of the story. Now, how far does it go? Oh, it goes very, very deep. And I'm even going to tell you something right now. People in this world today have the greatest technological advances in the world, but do you believe everything that comes out of NASA? Do you believe everything that comes out of the White House or out of Rome's mouth? Yeah. You even are told things that, will make me, if I tell you right now, why don't you consider the planet you live on and take it to the highest level, you anti-globalists? If you're an anti-globalist, go all the way maybe. Think about it. I'm not saying what I'm going to tell you now is true. I'm saying, listen, if you are going to believe these people, and you're going to believe what you see on TV, because that's where you're getting your information, or you're going to believe those phony pictures that NASA puts up, and then when you start really researching what they do, they might as well just open up a new Hollywood studio there, because that's really what it is. And when you start researching it, how far are you going to go? Are you going to entertain the idea that the Earth may not be moving at 64,000 miles an hour? Are you going to entertain the idea that it may be a stationary planet? The center of the universe? Oh, no. Greg, you're going back. You're in the Dark Ages. You know what? I don't believe what I see at NASA. I don't believe what I see on TV. I don't believe anything that comes out of these guys' mouths. Now, here's a few other things before I get into that theory and why you should entertain it. At least think about it. If you're a thinking human being, how many of you out there really believe you live in a free country? How many of you out there believe that your vote counts? How many out there think that if we elect a Democrat next, the world's going to be a better place? How many out there think that the founding fathers of this country had you in mind? And how many out there you think that when they formed this country, the idea was for Christian people to live free? It was for freedom of speech. It was for freedom of religion. How many out there believe that? You know what? I bet you most people believe it. And you know why they believe it? Because they've been told that. Or they see it on TV. I'm not a big flag-waving guy. I'm not a big guy that likes, every time I go to a baseball game, they play, one thing that's denigrated baseball is the national anthem. I mean, get on with it. There's only one song I want to hear when I go to a ballpark, and that's Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever come back. I don't want to hear America the Beautiful sung by Kate Smith. I don't want to see all this flag-waving garbage because none of it's true. And they're taking away from the truth that I see on the field. And I can't even go to a ball game and enjoy myself, because you know what I do? When they play unless I'm at Wrigley Field, when they play seventh inning stretch, and they do it the right way there, because I don't have to listen to it before. They play it sometimes before the game. But at least they take me out to the ball game during the seventh inning stretch. But at most, a lot of these places, like Yankee Stadium, they play, God Bless America. I usually go to the bathroom during that time, and then come out and watch the ball game. Because, we are waving these flags. We are pretending that the vote counts when it doesn't. You don't have any choice here. I don't care what you say. You go to the voting booth, your vote doesn't matter, because the people that run this country have already made up their minds what they're going to do. You ain't going to change it. You have no freedom. You have no freedom of speech. You have no freedom of religion. And I brought people on this program that prove it. But that's not good enough, because you heard it on TV. Or you see people waving flags. Or you listen to the Pope. Or you listen to the president. Or you don't have any choice. None of you, how many out there know what the Hegelian dialectic is and really how it operates? And that, you know what? Maybe 1% of the people. The rest of you, all of you want to do is to be comfortable and believe all this deception. And so, you sit there telling me every day that I'm crazy because I don't believe we're free. I don't believe in freedom of religion anymore because I've seen it wiped away in many people around here. You don't believe in anything that comes out of this show because you know what? You'd rather believe that Mr. Ed is a talking horse. And you know what? There's going to come a day when modern man believes that, if the Vatican comes down and authorizes it, or if your president authorizes it, or whatever. They're going to tell you anything. What's the next one? Oh, we're on our way to Mars. We've just discovered Jupiter. All you're going to see is pictures they've created. You might as well go to Hollywood. What do you think Hollywood is there for? It's to ingrain in your mind what they want you to believe because it isn't true. That's what Hollywood's there for, and that's why these people make millions and millions of dollars, because they're continuing the hoax that is one of the biggest hoaxes that's ever been put on you. And that is perhaps even the planet you walk on. And man, did they have a laugh over that one. And maybe tomorrow I'll get back into it. But let me give you a little taste. Because I'm telling you, you're going to believe whatever you hear on TV or whatever comes out of these crazy astronauts' mouth. And because you've been taught that the height of stupidity and naivety, being naive was never to believe these people. And that your ignorant ancestors were crazy to believe that the earth is stationary, or it's flat, or it's round and doesn't move, and the sun is not the center of our universe, or our planet system, and blah, blah, blah. You've been taught that. And you're not to think that. You can't do that because NASA tells you so. Now, NASA also told you that we went to the moon. And they lied about that. But nowadays, anybody that talks about a stationary earth in the Bible or a flat earth has become literally synonymous with crazy or moron or insane. And that's the way they like it. Because you're insane also if you talk about 9/11 being a government hoax, a government inside job. You're also insane if you want to say that the Pope is not the vicar of Christ. You're also insane and a moron if you consider that you don't live in a free country. Or you don't stand up and wave the flag when they sing God Bless America at a baseball game. You're crazy. That's what they want you to believe because that's what you've heard on TV, and that's what you've heard from your authorities, and that's what people in this country believe. And that's why modern man believes a lot more crazy things and is crazier than any of our ancestors. And we get more ignorant as the years go by, because we believe more without any factual basis, or we don't even begin to entertain the fact that we have common sense and the fact that we are free-thinking individuals. But we're so quick to discredit anything that our leaders tell us. Now, there's people out there who, Oklahoma City, but how far are you going to go? Most of them go as far as Alex Jones will take you. Because he's in controlled opposition. He's working with them. He wants to take you into this realm of revolting and fighting and hating. And how many of these people on the internet do that? And you're going to believe them too. Because that's what you've been taught from the time you were a kid. And once you got to break out of it. I don't know how, but you got to. And one way is to start thinking, using your common sense about things that you were told and seen on TV. And maybe you won't believe that Mr. Ed is a talking horse. See you tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. The U.S. and Cuba plan to hold talks about two of America's most wanted fugitives. The State Department says Cuba has agreed to talk about fugitives, including Joanne Chesimard and William Morales. Chesimard escaped from a U.S. prison where she had been serving a sentence for killing a New Jersey state trooper in 1973. She was granted asylum by Fidel Castro. Morales is a Puerto Rican nationalist who was wanted in connection with bombings in New York in the 1970s. A man is in custody after landing a small helicopter on the U.S. Capitol lawn.
It made for a strange sight, a tiny gyrocopter sitting on the west lawn, its rotors slowly spinning. Capitol Police say it landed about a half block from the Capitol itself. They're not identifying the pilot.